So, hi, this is Les Winston, and this is Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. And
Hello.
we interview on a regular basis very important people in the philanthropic planning world. We have a whole slate of professional philanthropic advisors, which you can find on socialsacharity.org. That's a nonprofit and free of charge listing of all professional philanthropic advisors who want to opt into that listing and where we can find out more about them. My guest is a lawyer with over 20 years of experience in nonprofit management and estate tax and charitable gift planning across diverse international and domestic settings. And our guest is Cari Jackson Lewis.
Hello.
How are you?
Good,
Nice to meet
thank you. Good, nice to meet you too.
Yes.
So I'm Cari. It sounds like Marie.
Cari.
Yeah.
Okay, Cari.
That's
Sorry, Cari.
That's
Cari Jackson Lewis.
That's
So, Cari, you've been doing this for 20 years, and I know that you're in California. Is that
right.
correct? Based in California.
That's
So,
right.
tell me, is California becoming more or less philanthropic these days?
Isn't that a great question? So we know that California is known for being a high tax state. And so part of the issues that I think donors consider is that, well, I'm paying all these taxes, and California is very good to its citizens and to the folks who live here. So I think that folks who have decided to live here have decided to take advantage of all the wonderful things that California offers. And that includes an array of nonprofit organizations that are having impact here in the state. And so I would say that even though the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did do a little bit of a whammy on our taxes, that is to say, by doubling the standard deduction, by lowering the tax amount that we can deduct for our homes. You know, in these blue states, our homes cost a lot of money, and the taxes are quite high. Despite that, even though there was certainly predictions of doom and gloom about what this would do to charitable giving, we have found that, in fact, it hasn't lowered charitable giving that much. And then, of course, after the COVID pandemic struck, we've seen wonderful outpouring of what we called, disaster and crisis giving, but also some of that giving is also attributed to the racial reckoning that's gone on in this country. And we've seen quite a bit of charitable giving being directed to organizations that are committed to social justice, racial justice, and other issues that have emerged from the brutal murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so many others. So California seems to be ticking along as a very generous state, both by taxpayers and by the folks who are living, working, and playing here.
Good to hear. Very good to hear. So I know that you're going to be providing a webinar to the Advisors in Philanthropy membership of folks who are familiar with Advisors in Philanthropy and the International Association of Advisors in Philanthropy. In fact, I know you're a board member, if I'm not mistaken. You're a board member for that organization. I used to be very involved with that as well. The webinar that you're giving is something that's very interesting to me and very interesting to a lot of our listeners, people who are in business, who don't actually know what's available to them in terms of what can be done using philanthropic planning. So to explain, not the whole thing that you're going to be presenting at your webinar, but at least to talk about what the benefits might be to somebody who is thinking about succession planning and thinking about a business and how it's involved here. So
absolutely, it's about dealing with business owners is that business owners are incredibly philanthropic. Part of that research demonstrates, I think it's Russell James and Brian Klontz as well from Charitable Solutions. They really talk about how business owners are often people who are still working, right? So they're not folks when they're thinking about business exit planning, and we know that this is particularly true for our BIPOC-led organizations. So for entrepreneurs who are African American or Asian American or Latinx. These entrepreneurs are working to support themselves, their families. They are supporting people horizontally and vertically, right? So they're sending money back to the old country or supporting elderly folks as well as cousins, right? And then people in the community, and then their own children and families, right? And so these folks who are working and are building up their businesses often are folks who have started from scratch, right? So the sale of that business would generate capital gains tax upon tax, right? It would be quite large when you're talking about folks who have set up their business with, you know, $1 per share, right, in their little book that they never look at.
Yeah, they made the businesses worth a lot of money, and therefore, when
That's
if
right.
they were to sell it, they have a lot of tax to pay, which the government is tapping into that. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And so what I'd like to do in this presentation, and what I do is to really talk about folks who are not only should be looking at the tax benefits of selling their business or part of their business through a charitable vehicle, but also I really want to emphasize the joy of giving while living and that second act. Right. And so folks who are doing their business exit planning, we know there's a 3 to 5 year sell cycle. So they're polishing up their books and they're making sure that everything looks great. And they're very superstitious, right?
Yeah.
Don't mess up the deal, right? So philanthropic advisors coming in, they're saying, well, what are you doing? What are you talking about? But if you bring in a philanthropic advisor soon, right, along with your estate planning attorney and your circle of trusted advisors, right, that philanthropic advisor can come in and be that, what we call in the Chartered Advisor and Philanthropy program, that synthesizing generalist, right? So we're bringing in the folks who can help them look at their business and polish up their books. We want the estate planning attorney. We want the M&A professional. We want the valuation and appraisal folks in there, right? Your CPA.
Yeah, so that's a really important point, Cari. If you could just stress, you could just talk about how, because, listen, if you own IBM stock or if you own Google stock, you know what it's worth because you can look it up in the newspaper. But if you own a closely held corporation, what's the difference there? What do they have to do in order to make that viable?
Absolutely. So as you already pointed out, certainly there are open markets, right, that will tell you what Google stock or any of those other stocks are worth. But for a closely held business, whether it's a limited partnership or an LLC, closely held businesses must have a qualified appraisal by a qualified appraiser, which sounds very pedantic when I say it that way, but that's what the IRS wants, right?
Yeah, no, they want to know that it's being done properly. Yeah,
they want to know it's being done properly, and it also has to be fresh, right? It has to be fresh. And so when we talk about giving with your charitable vehicle, we're talking about saying taking 10% or maybe 20% of your business. And so whether it's LLC interests or your limited partnership interest, contributing that to a charitable vehicle like a donor advised fund for the simplest one. If we're starting very simple, put that into a donor advised fund well before a letter of interest is signed because we don't want any prearranged sale issues there. And so then by having the buyer buy that business from the donor advised fund sponsor and from the business owner, the business owner will receive that charitable income tax deduction to defray the capital gains tax that they'd be paying on the amount of the business that they're selling right out of their pocket. And so also by having those funds now from the sale of that portion of the business into their donor advised fund, they're able to take those funds and take a little bit of time to think about, what are we doing now? So there are some entrepreneurs who are serial entrepreneurs and they're on to the next business. But there are some who are retiring, right? So they are doing their business exit planning. They said, I run my race, right? I want to go sit under my own vine and under my own fig tree, right? And do something different. But what do I do? Right? Because I've been working, me and my spouse or my family's been working all this time, and now I'm selling this business, I'm retiring, and you look around and say, what do I do? And so as part of this presentation, I talk to, and it's focused to advisors. As a part of this presentation, I say, you should be there through the transaction to help them think about their second act. And so what is it they loved about working? Keep track of that. So then when you have sold that business and you've got these funds in this donor advised fund, let's talk about how you want to work with philanthropy during this time where you're deciding what to do, after the sale of your business. So you could become very philanthropic, right, with those donor advised funds.
Of course.
You could be very strategic about it. You could want your family to be involved. You could say, you know what, I think I want to also have perhaps a private foundation, right? So there are so many things that a philanthropic consultant like myself or someone from the community foundation or something like that can really work with these business owners so that we're looking at the whole person. I'm at Loyola Marymount University. I got my JD at Fordham, and those are Jesuit universities. And so the theory is cura personalis, right? So it is the education of the whole person. And so when I talk to, as a estate planning attorney and philanthropic consultant and also a fundraiser, when I talk to business owners, I want to make sure that they're going to be happy people. So the taxes make them happy, right? Defraying the capital gains tax makes people happy, right?
Not paying tax or deferring the tax is certainly something people like.
That's right.
To know. Right. Yes.
That's right. But we also want them to be satisfied and happy holistically. And so we want these charitable vehicles there to provide solutions for them. So it's not just here's how to be charitable, but it's also here's something for you to think about what you might like to do. Do you need a stream of income after retirement? Let's make sure we have that. We know that you're taking care of people left, right, and center. Let's make sure you have that. Do you need flexibility? Let's make it a crutch so you can contribute other assets if you're so inclined, right? If you're worried and you've got someone who needs that money for their assisted living, right? So maybe Nana needs it for assisted living. Put that in a CRAT. I wouldn't advise it. Interest rates and inflation is awful, but you could put it in a CRAT if she's worried and she wants the same check every month and she doesn't want it to change. She doesn't want it to go up or down. Make her the beneficiary of that CRAT. That will pay off the perhaps the insurance if she's got kids who said, listen, you put the house and the business in there, what do we get? Let's pay off the insurance, and also that will pay for Valley Village. That those places are expensive.
Well, a lot of people don't really know that, because we talk about Route 664 is based on the concept of getting people to understand that there is a section of the code, Section 664, which they can use and need to know about, just like they know what a 401k is.
Right.
529. Nobody talks about 664, so we're talking about it. So when we talk about 664, we're talking about a little different animal than the donor advised fund, because with 664, they have the opportunity to get income back.
Right.
So in the situation where you have, not all businesses are treated the same way, though, however, by the code.
Sure.
Not all styles of businesses, let's put it that way. Their LLCs are different than the subchapter S or the C corporations and
absolutely
partnerships and so on. So when you get involved in that kind of a planning mix with the collaborative team of advisors,
yes,
do you feel like you're on an island sometimes? Like you're, like you're the only one, the only voice in the wilderness, and they're all going, it's too complicated, it costs too much money, you're not in a position to do that, et cetera, et cetera.
You have hit the nail on the head. And I think I'm laughing because you certainly have characterized meetings that I've been in. But here's one of the things that helps me, I think, in this process. Because I'm also an estate planning attorney, I'm someone who that business owner, that person and their spouse have talked to me about some of their deepest truths, right? They've told me who they think needs help later, who they want to take care of their children, who they think who they can trust to manage their money when they're unwell, right? So when they're not dead, but they're alive, but unwell. So we've asked these intimate questions, and we know, and I know what their needs are. So when I'm talking about, when I'm moving from estate planning into philanthropic giving, I do have an edge in that they've listened to the information already. There is an element of trust that's already there. So I normally don't get punted from that seat at the table, which is what
you have an advantage because you are an attorney as well. And I will say, frankly, it's refreshing to talk to attorneys and an attorney like yourself, Cari, that understands the philanthropic planning side. A lot of them know about it, and a lot of attorneys, have a smattering of information. So do CPAs. They know what a charitable trust is, but they don't necessarily know how to totally apply that and all of the nuances that can be applied to that kind of planning. So when you're in a situation where your client understands what you're talking about, your client has decided that they have more than they need to take care of their own needs, and they have more than they need to take care of what they want to leave to their kids.
Yes.
What is the feeling that they have after you have worked with them to create that, what I call working at your genius, the idea that they've gotten to the point now where, I've got confidence over my money, relationships, and time, and now I'm spiritually headed and I'm going to be working at my genius, and I want to do something to help people. What do you get back from that? What is the reward that you get?
Les, what a wonderful expression. I love that. Getting at our geniuses. Thank you for that. Okay, so hope that one's free because I'm going to use it now.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I am someone, so our family, we all teach and preach, right? So we are all teachers, and I'm an African-American female. And so I have a twin sister, and I'm at LMU in University Advancement. My sister is at Yale doing audience services management for the Schwarzman Center. My mother was a teacher, special ed teacher. I was a teacher as well. I have 5 aunts. Most of them are teachers, right? And their husbands, they're all, university professors and teachers. So teaching is very important to us. And so education is very important. So in any role that we have, if we're able to educate and protect the folks that we're talking about. So as an estate planning attorney, I'm protecting families, right? The tax efficient transfer of wealth between families. And then as a philanthropic consultant, working with nonprofits to get them the funds they need to do the things that the government is not doing, right?
That's endowing America.
We're endowing America. Yep. That's right, endowing America. And so I am absolutely, it calls to me. And it fulfills me to be able to be a part of these transactions that help not only the donors provide solutions for them, right, but also to get money to these nonprofits as they need it, nonprofits who are having real impact. So I'm working with a couple now that's doing a CRUT, and they just have it just gives me goosebumps. They're so thoughtful, right? They're so thoughtful that the scholarship that they're endowing also will pay for childcare so that these students will not be barred from finishing their secondary education because they have to take care of a child. How thoughtful is that, right? So these are folks who, boots on the ground, are just thoughtful, and they're not the type of donors who say, I want to endow grandma's garden, but I don't want to pay for the light, the electricity, the employee, nothing, right? I just want the garden beautiful, right? So these are folks who are saying, here are the funds that you need to get work done. So they're the kind of folks who give unrestricted funds, right? Because we know that the restricted funds, yes, they're great and they help get these programs off the ground and sustain them. But if you're not paying people the right salaries, if you're not, truly an organization that is sustainable, right, then no matter how beautiful you want that garden to be, it won't exist.
Right. You need to know, focusing the donor or focusing your client on what they want to do,
right,
and what they would be happy doing.
Right.
It seems like it should be easy, but it's really not. And so a professional like yourself, Cari, my guest is Cari Jackson Lewis. She is an attorney in California. She has a company which specializes in philanthropic services and providing philanthropic advice in very complicated settings as well. And that people need to know where to find you. And of course, we are happy to have you on our roster of professional philanthropic advisors.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
We would like to have you there, and we also, you don't have to, there's no charge for that. It's we want the public to be aware of how they can find people that can help them do this kind of planning, because it's so important in order to endow America,
Indeed.
in order to take the burden off of government. You know, it's when you talk about this stuff that you're saying, you know, you're helping them with taxes and you're helping with their planning and you're helping with all these things, and they actually are benefiting from it. So it's a kind of win-win situation. It's a win for the donor. It's a win for the donor's family. It's a win for the community. And do you think it's also a win for government?
I think it actually is as well. And we know that nonprofit funds are risk capital, right? Because the nonprofits get together, they're thoughtful. They're folks who should have their boots on the ground in the communities that they serve. And so they know what the problems are, and they can put together these different pilots and strategies to try to deal with these problems. And then once it works, you've got your proof of concept, and then the government, says, hey, that's a good idea. And then they start doing it, right? So we know that we need that risk capital to be innovative, right? And then also, nonprofits who are, one of the things that my company specializes in is working with BIPOC-led and BIPOC-serving nonprofits to also sort of raise the profile of these high impact, but not as well-known nonprofits in the area that do, that have a great impact, but maybe folks just don't know that much about, right? Everyone knows who the United Way is, and everyone knows who some of these larger arts organizations are, but there aren't a lot of folks, perhaps, who know enough about the African-American Shakespeare theater, right? In San Francisco.
That's probably true.
That's right, in San Francisco. And they're wonderful. And they're wonderful. Yes. They're just wonderful.
And they deserve to be supported, and they're not going to be in a position where they can lobby Congress for a grant from the federal government. We have a problem. I have a problem with government supporting non-governmental organizations. It's an oxymoron to me. And so in order to avoid that, we need to replace that with endowment. And folks like yourself, Cari, and others like you, other professional philanthropic planners, philanthropic advisors, you serve the community at a very high level and a very important level. And you do need to get to know the people really well in order for you to be able to advise them. So Cari, thank you very much for joining us today, Cari Jackson Lewis. And your webinar is open to all advisors, actually. They need to go to the Advisors in Philanthropy Foundation, Advisors in Philanthropy website, the International Association of Philanthropic Advisors in Philanthropy, and they can find the dates for the webinar, and they can join you on that. And I hope you get a very good turnout, because
thank you. It's April 19th. And we're looking forward to is how to succeed in selling and gifting your business without really crying. So it tells you that I am a tragic musical theater buff.
Say that again, because I think they didn't hear the last word, but say it again.
How to sell and gift your business without really crying.
Okay.
My youngest son is
succession planning at its highest level. Cari Jackson, thank you. Cari Jackson Lewis, thank you very much for joining us today on Route 664, the road to human kindness.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Les.
We'll talk to you again.
God bless.
Yeah, so if you've noticed, when we interview the professional philanthropic advisors, they love what they do. And that's a really good thing for the public, and it's a good thing for the advisor. It's a good thing for everybody. So we encourage you to become a professional philanthropic advisor. If you are an accountant or a lawyer, or if you're dealing in the markets, if you're a registered investment advisor, if you're working with people and you have a financial type of advisory business, then you might want to learn how to do professional philanthropic advice, because it is an important part of going forward for the country and for the individuals, and also for the nonprofit organizations. What we were talking about with Cari is the idea that government should not be supporting non-governmental organizations, that they need to be endowed. In order to endow them, people have to give substantial gifts, and people will give substantial gifts when they understand the benefits of giving those substantial gifts, both to themselves and their family, as well as to the community. And that is what the professional philanthropic advisor can help them do. We are going to be have created a continuing education course that we are offering to advisors to teach them how to become professional philanthropic advisors by learning about those sections of the tax code called the social security sections of the tax code. Social security, Route 664 is about Section 664 and social security. There are three basic types of social security devices. 664 is a charitable trust section of the tax code, but there's also the pooled income fund section, and there's also the charitable gift annuity section. All of those sections were given to us over 50 years ago by Congress. In their infinite wisdom, they understood that the way that they're operating, supporting non-governmental organizations is becoming a great burden because it increases the deficit. It increases our national debt. So we're looking to remove that burden off of government and put it back into the private sector where it is that they would have liked it to go in the first place. Because when they created these sections, the intent was to increase the charitable wealth in the country and to increase endowment. And so our organization, Endow America Network Foundation, is about endowing America using Section 664 and Social Security to do that. But we need people that know how to do it. We need more professional philanthropic advisors. And you can learn enough about this to be dangerous out there. You can learn enough about this from our continuing education course, and you can become more knowledgeable in how to tap into resources that can help you do this type of planning effectively and economically for your clients. It teaches you how to go through the process with your clients so that you can make them properly philanthropic when it's necessary, when it's appropriate, and also do some things for them with regard to tax savings and also income production. And those are very important parts of all planning processes. So if you're an advisor out there listening and you want to learn more about professional philanthropic advice and how to give it and how to work with the Section 664 and Social Security devices, by all means, why don't you go to our website, socialsecurity.org, and give us some information about you, and we'll be in touch with you to help you get through this process, how to learn how to use these devices. This is Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. I'm your host, Les Winston. I am the national spokesperson for socialsecurity.org. We have a lot of different opportunities for you to learn about what we're doing and also to see all of the interviews that we've done in the past with professional philanthropic advisors, philanthropists, well-known celebrities who are philanthropists. And you can hear all of those on our radio station, which is route664.org/radio, route664.org/radio. That digital radio station plays some of the greatest music around for you to be happy. Sundays are terrific if you want to get your chores done during the day. You can start out with jazz and classical music and go to the soulful sounds of Stephen Cole, and you'll be able to clean your entire house without ever breaking from your smile. So, and Wanda, our phenomenal producer, is the one who directs all of that. You also hear The Adventures of Charity, which are very exciting vignettes that you can listen to and learn more about social security and charity's work using the wizards of Pithecus and Cratius and Chigaro. Those are really powerful people, and we'll get to know them better as we go along. So I hope that you'll tune in to this webcast, tune into the YouTube channel, and on Amazon Music. You can find all of our interviews there, and you can learn more about what we're talking about. Also, Spotify. Thank you, Wanda. We want you to become familiar with 664. Just like you know what a 401k is and a 529, you need to know what a 664 is and what it does and how it can be used. You don't have to know all of the details about it, but you need to know that it's available, and then you need to find an advisor that can help you work with it. And that's what this is all about. So join us again next week, same time, same station, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. Thanks a lot.